Alright, hey there everybody, Sari here, and welcome back to the weekly reset. It's kind of wild that we've hit the last regular AR season before Engage drops later this week. It's right around the corner, and we actually got a banner trailer last night for our first set of Engage units, which is a lot of fun. I do know about well, I've seen at least the designs for Alair, but I haven't really paid too much attention to the other characters, so it's neat to see them showing up and get a small preview of some of the people we're going to meet on Friday. Hey there, Bergs, welcome back. I haven't taken too many looks at the defense replays. It's been a really busy week for me, but things have held up alright. I think we had some clean losses. I think 2 clean losses that counted, and a couple of others along the way. Also a couple of sacrifice plays, which are always a little bit interesting. Hey there, Pumpkin, welcome back. This one, okay, so they've got a lethality Yuri. This looks like a bit of a hit and run sort of setup, and they have a speed preempt Shez. Legendary Shez is actually a really cool unit. I like her a lot, personally. She's been a lot of fun to use in Arena so far. I don't know how well she works as a Vantage unit, since this A slot doesn't actually work at all in the enemy phase, so she doesn't get all of that effective damage benefit that she usually counts on to shred through anything she fights. She can still make it work, I think. Vantage units don't usually have effective damage to play with, so I could see it working. It's just going to be something that you need to play a little more carefully around. It's also fun to see a Seether on the fence. It is her bonus week, so I should probably be expecting to see a lot of her here. And they've got a backup Vantage unit with Brave Byleth. I'm a little surprised they had trouble with this. They have an unsniped bolt tower here that lands on, well, basically our entire team. So they probably just... oh, okay, so they don't have the safety fence. They locked out a couple of our units at the start, thanks to Seether. They're taking their time with this approach, and probably just waiting for the bolt tower before they go in. From here... oh, They might have been expecting to just be able to Kanto back with Yuri and forgot about Kanto control, because, well, not going in on that third turn means that most of the team just gets healed right back up by the healing tower. Shez can still melt Felix, that's, it's not a fight that Felix is going to have a good time with. And then Zeus. 1 hit point, even without the effective damage involved, means there's no way Zeus survives that. Yeah, okay, so here's where they're counting on speed preempt to really make a difference, and unfortunately, not having effective damage really hurts when Gatekeeper moves in and just doesn't care too much about those hits. Then he gets danced and can move over to bonfire his way through Reagan.
The way is shut.
Not good enough.
It does look like Shez is able to speed preempt Corin here, though. Oh, nope, never mind.
Sorry,
Take it back.
everyone.
She might have been able to before Gatekeeper moved in, since if she was able to get hit by Corin there, Corin would have just moved in instead of Gatekeeper. Yeah, and losing those is enough for them to surrender and move on. This one's a sacrifice play, which is always... it's a bit of a, well, if you really want to win, you can win as long as you take losses. They do have some very impressive units here. It's a +10 Shamir. plus 10 Leonie. Basic Caesar. Setup, wow, plus 10 setup too. So they've really gone in on all of the free-to-play available Three Houses units. It was fun to see. And your save line was all. I think she's held up pretty well. She probably does want the arcane sword to work with instead of a winter rapier. But even with this, she's a very solid near save bodyguard. Her speed stat is actually one of the reasons for that, since a lot of save units don't really have that level of speed, and it's a weak point that a lot of people try to take advantage of with their defense setups. But having a speed stat means that she can navigate around that and outspeed her opponents instead of getting windswept or just null follow-up in general. See, they're moving into Break Felix here is actually really good to see. Him not being able to handle a bonus week Seether is something that might end up getting him benched in the future, just because he does need to be able to survive something like that. In this game, my best character depends a bit on the mode that I'm looking at and what I'm planning to have them do. Oh. Yeah, Sarah's getting danced by Ninian means Manuela's not having a good time here.
Again.
Speed isn't helping her when she's just getting wiped out by a blue dragon. Yeah, from there they decide to keep going, and it's easy enough to clean things up from there. Yeah, my best characters in this game, like I said, it depends a bit on where we're talking about in the game, because I think every character in Heroes has a really strong point in maybe one or two areas, but they're not going to be good at everything. No character can do every single thing in the game better than somebody else can. I do have some favorites. Selgius is a character that I just spoil almost no matter what. He's one of my favorites, and has been for a very long time. I've also got legendary Dimitri, who picked up some very fun toys this past week. And yeah, there's the Ninja Korin that I got to max out last year. Kronya, who's also been doing a lot of work over in Light Weeks. Gatekeeper, who actually got to hit plus 10. I think it was last week, in the last week or two, since I did go back to the Winter Banner for the last Spark and ended up finding a Gatekeeper along the way, so really glad to have him at plus 10. Sadly, we got to follow that sacrifice plays with 2 clean losses in a row, which is a little unfortunate. Yeah, okay, this is going to be a Vantage Sweep with Levitain. I don't actually have a Hardy Bearing on my defense, and that's something I'm probably going to need to fix now that Altina's gotten her remix, since I imagine we're going to start seeing a lot more of her in the not-so-distant future. And they have Bernadetta to make sure that she can get into Vantage range very easily. Everyone else is just there as backup. Thor's a really good support here, since it lets Levitain have access to a special in almost every combat she uses. Or gets into, rather. Yep, and Asher's right there for very easy access to Vantage range with that reciprocal aid. It's a good team setup, really. I've started looking into more solo carry options for the season, since it helps navigate those weeks where I don't have a plus 10 bonus mythic, since I do like to keep my scoring as high as it can go, and if I want to do that, I do need to make sure that I have someone who can carry a match on their own. Yeah, and since we don't have a Hardy Bearing, this is just going to be a very quick Vantage Sweep from Legiorn, or Levitain rather. Oh, Legiorn's actually very close to surviving this, wow. The special obviously tips it, but without that special, Levitain would only have just barely met that health requirement.
Our meeting was fated.
Gatekeeper too, actually, came pretty close to surviving that. Yep. And that's all of her major threats out of the way, so it's pretty easy for her to sweep the rest of this match. Just pull Ashura out of the way of Felix, because that fight might not end so well for Ashura. Bit unfortunate. I haven't seen too many Vantage approaches in Animal Seasons in a long time, though. This is one of those matches that, if Altina hadn't just been remixed, I would probably just write off and say, well, that's a very solid Vantage sweep strategy, and there's not much I can do about it without making major changes to the team. But I'll probably need to do exactly that sooner than later. Oh, this is just a safe ball, huh? With Elamine, Flane... Oh, Henriette, yeah. So Henriette's always been one of those odd weak points in this defense, since she does a really good job of checking Corrin, and can also survive Lae'Garn at the same time. So even at +0, there's a pretty solid chance that she can just get right through it, since Corrin is the one carrying Colorless Feud, and she's not the one who can really threaten Henriette. Lae'Garn could, but only if she's, you know, not dying on this second counterattack, and doing a little bit more damage with the Deadeye. A Colorless Feud here would actually mean that she deletes Henriette immediately, since it takes out 12 extra defense per hit along with the damage reduction, and that would mean that Henriette dies to the Deadeye, instead of just getting to survive and then beat Corrin with one counterattack before Corrin gets the 3rd and 4th hits. Yeah, red far saves have, like I said, they've been a bit of a weak point in this defense, and it does have several flaws that I should probably look at correcting over time. I just need to actually find the time to sit down and really tinker with it. Arvel was probably the point where I should have really thought about it. It's hard though, because working Arvel into the team means probably replacing either Seros or Mirabilis. And Seros is +10, which means that she gets a lot of extra lift loss mitigation accomplished for free just by being deployed. I do think Arvel would probably help just push more successful defenses overall though, so it's probably worth thinking about finding some way to work them into the team. I'd also really like to work in a save armor that isn't Felix. Since it would really help a lot just to update the defensive profile of the team. Felix has aged remarkably well. He still does quite a lot of work, but he's starting to really show his age. I think once we get an Arcane Bow, he might end up being a little bit better off, but until... Oh, right, this is the one we just watched. Never mind. We get to watch a successful defense now, which is a bit of a relief after getting clobbered twice in a row. Oh, wow. So they went right ahead and brought in several new units, including the recently released Kadain Nino. I did end up getting baited a little bit into this banner, because the Times Pulse 4 specifically is something that is just too good of a fit for Dimitri for me to pass up on, and that combined with still having a pair of Ganglots that I haven't used, or hadn't used at all before now, was enough to convince me to pull on the banner and get a pretty decent set of inheritances put together. They've also got a Winter Dorothea, who I think is a really solid support unit. Coming with this infantry null follow-up tactic is just... it's really nice, and she works a bit like a Harmonica Azura, but red. She doesn't apply the buffs to everybody around her, but usually all you're looking for is those buffs on a single target anyway, and she does that very well. We've also gotten Ashura, Naga, Seether for their mythics, and a bonus Brave Crom. I ended up getting a couple of extra Croms from the Legendary banner while I was pulling on it for Chez, and I haven't quite decided if I want to use him for infantry speed tactic or not yet. I probably will at some point. It's a very useful support skill and helps a lot for just outsourcing no follow-up so that you can free up skill slots on your primary carries. So they just go right in here and count on Nino to
Not strong enough yet.
speed preempt her way through this, which she does still have to outspeed her opponent, and Legion is very fast.
By my flame.
It is nice to actually get to see Legion recover a bit after those last couple, because she's done a lot of work for me ever since I built her up and added her to the team, and it's good to see her still able to get some stuff done here. So this is the one we just saw. This one. Ooh. Young Mia. I have not seen very— oh, this is a Gale Force setup. Cool. Okay. Young Mia is honestly very cool. Her weapon just gives her so many effects to work with, and does a lot for helping to free up the rest of her kit. And the built-in Phantom Speed in her weapon does a lot for just making sure that she gets this Flashing Blade unlocked no matter what, along with dodge and small follow-up from her weapon. Ooh, that's +10 Summer Norn. Very cool. I imagine they're probably going to want to give her that new Arcane Lens that we're getting in the coming banner. It'll be fun to see who people give that to. I'm hoping to get at least one. I don't know who I'd give it to if I only get one, but it would probably be my OG Azura, who's another one of those characters that I'm just pretty willing to spoil with a lot of the new toys that come along. So Gale Force, I wonder if they forgot about Gatekeeper. Gatekeeper tends to shut down a lot of Gale Force approaches that people— oh no, they didn't— okay. They actually didn't even get a chance to start their Gale Force, they just moved Corrin a little bit too far forward. Yep, and I don't think they wanted the fight to start here, but they moved Corrin into our attack range, and she didn't have a movement left to Kanto back out after she broke the structure. So I think this fight just started before they meant to have it started. So I don't actually get to see if Gatekeeper would have messed up their Gale Force approach or not. There's a chance he wouldn't have if they got Mia in there without having to get her Wings of Mercying in. She would be able to take care of Gatekeeper and then let the rest of the team follow through. But I guess we won't find out. And then we go back to another clean loss. Let's see what they brought to this one. Okay, this is going to be a hit-and-run approach, I think. Isolation's not something I've seen too much in Astro Weeks, but I think that's going to change in another couple of weeks when the current Hall of Forms ends, since I think anybody who missed out on picking up Fjorm the first time she was in the Hall of Forms is definitely planning to pick her up on this rerun. I think she's still one of 2 units that has Isolation that isn't tied to a duo skill available. The other one is Milla, and that makes Fjorm the only one who's really accessible in Astro Weeks, and it's still a really, really good niche for her to have. Also got Reagan, Cedar, New Year's Fafnir, and a Happy, who I imagine is what they're using to break through Felix, if they don't just count on the unsniped Bolt Tower to break the front line for them. I imagine it's actually the Bolt Tower here. I think Felix is actually bulky enough to take a hit from Happy without it. We'll see. They might just go in here and prove me wrong. Oh, right, or they can just send Cedar in and do that job for them. Fair enough. And this is actually pretty safe for them to do, since bringing Fjorm along for Isolation means that the team doesn't really have any way to chase them down. So as long as they get out of this basic attack range, they're completely safe and can just set up for the following turn. We do have Minion, but odds are Minion's not going to dance anybody into range of actually attacking. Yep, lands on Gatekeeper, and that just keeps everybody rallied in place and stops anybody from really going anywhere. And they set it up perfectly. The entire team gets nailed by that bolt tower, and that makes it very easy for them to clean things up from here. Commando control does limit their movement options, but it's not really going to be enough to slow them down, I think. Yep. Happy can pick off Gatekeeper and take that Kanto control off the field. Which lets either move in and hit Corrin, and since it's turn 3, she also gets to shut down the only dancer who can reach her, and keeps her completely safe in this following turn. I haven't had a chance to use either myself. Or should actually shut down the dancer, but Minion actually has enough res to beat that check here. Which is fun. It doesn't mean that Minion's actually accomplishing anything here, but it's fun to see her actually do that.
Not giving up.
I've seriously considered actually giving my fallen Minion the Arcane Breath if I get another Grima at some point. It would actually be really good for her. I like having the extra visible stats that the Refine offers, and it would make her a lot harder to just ignore as a dancer after you take out the rest of the threats. Yeah, this Chaos Week is going to be an interesting time. Going back to Book 1 bonus units after Book 6 is going to be a major power shift. And I don't know if I'm going to actually set up a defense that's just bonus units the way I have for the last several Chaos Weeks. We'll see. I'm planning to use Azura as my bonus unit for basically every team. She's a pretty solid dancer, and honestly doesn't have too hard a time securing a knockout on something that isn't a tank. Camilla. This is another unit that I expect to see not necessarily too often. I don't think too many people pulled for her, but she's a very, very strong Vantage sweeper. And if Vantage starts becoming a strategy that more people are using, I expect we're going to see a lot more of her. The team is a little bit mixed, though. They have a Vantage option, they have a just pure tank, Brave Edelgard, Parsave Fjorm, and a Brave or Harmonic Roy. So they have a lot of different ways to approach a defense team. Another unsniped bolt tower hitting our entire team means they should have an easy time cracking this open if they decide to play it that way. I think this was a sacrifice play though, so they do end up losing somebody along the way here. So they're just using Edelgard and I guess Camilla here too to try and bait the team out. I wonder how that's going to work for them. I think, yeah, I was going to say, I think Laegern's actually pretty content just hitting Edelgard, and when Edelgard's down to 2 hit points, there's not much left for her to do other than take a hit. Oh, Sarah's getting very close to not finishing that off. But she does manage it. And there goes Adel. This is not ending well for Gatekeeper. He actually comes pretty close to surviving it. If we'd had a guard effect here, then Camilla wouldn't have actually finished him off. Which is very impressive. He's so bulky. I'm looking forward to seeing what he ends up getting if the CYL 5, I think, units get a refine this year. It's a set with Erp and Gatekeeper, and I'm honestly looking forward to both of their refines. Yeah, this is a Radiant Dawn theme. I believe it's from the last segment of the game, and I think it plays against the Forces of Order a couple of times. I think in the mansion is one of the places you see it. Yep, and from here.
To protect
Sadly, Legion doesn't actually get to finish Fjorm off here. She usually does, but not if she has the Deadeye pre-charged, since a pre-charged Deadeye means Fjorm gets to reflect enough damage to one-shot Legion on counterattack. A little bit unfortunate there. Alright, well, we get one more success in between various states of failure. The ones where they are willing to take a sacrifice for, I'm not usually too worried about. Oh, that's a very impressive Yuri. Oh my. Very impressive Yuri. I'm curious to see if we start seeing Times Pulse 4 on these Spiral Yuris, since it does actually work really well with Special Spiral and Blazing Wind. Well, kind of. It's... I guess it's not really too much of an upgrade, but what it would do is make you immune to potentially getting guarded. Guard can mess with Spiral strategies like this a little bit, since if they get hit with a guard effect, you end up having a 3-charge Blazing Wind after the combat, and it only goes down to 1, so it doesn't fully recharge, and that can really interfere with the Spiral spam. So Times Pulse 4 would just sort of take that off the board and let you Spiral spam your way to victory. Oh, that's a Claude. Wow. Freshly refined, already has Remote Sparrow and Panic Smoke 4. Oh wow, that is a Claude. Very impressive. This refine's honestly just, it's got a lot built into it. It's for the most part, it's a major stat swing and first hit damage reduction, and honestly, it's kind of all he needs. He gets partial null follow-up with it, so you can't really stop his second attack, and he hits really, really hard thanks to the penalty doubler on his opponent's defense, especially combined with the penalty doubler he can get from Panic Smoke 4, which basically says that if you have a defense penalty and you don't neutralize it, you're going to just die. He is going to hit you very, very, very hard. Oh wow, that's a very impressive Fatal too. Distant Ferocity. I'm really hoping we see this skill on somebody who isn't Halloween Duma at some point. While I was glad to see it show up, Halloween Duma's kit is basically not ideal for anyone who isn't a dragon. You'd basically get Distant Ferocity and nothing else, which is not ideal to me, and didn't end up being worth pulling for. They've also got... oh wow, that's a plus 10 Seether already. Jeez, okay. Alright. Just plus 4 on Thor and plus 3 on Nagas, so they really went in on Seether. Honestly, I can understand why. She's a very strong mythic, and honestly I think it's going to be one of those mythics that just never stops being useful. A lot like characters like Elamine or Milla, who just have effects that are always, always good to have. This looks like another one where they may have gone in before they were ready. They did have Fatal Guard to screen for them, but Orin hits really hard. And with Fatal Guard out of the way, Claude's not having a good time here. Legion getting to clear her debuff set before attacking into Claude means that Claude really doesn't have much to work with in this enemy phase. And that's 2 of their major threats off the field, which is enough for them to surrender and move on. Sadly, we follow that with some more clean losses, but that's okay. We did well enough this week. I'm okay with the results overall, and yeah, if we end up losing some along the way, that's okay. I would like to end up putting the defense back to a very high win rate, but I do think that's going to take a lot of tinkering. This team's an interesting mix again. Oh, okay, so what happened here is they really just got lucky with their catapult placement. Since the catapult in that lane on the right means that they open up a very easy bait for Tiki to tank Corrin without having to worry about Leigern at the same time. And Tiki can handle Corrin.
Out of the way.
The Dragon Wall that she gets and just her natural res is more than enough to take a couple of hits and then finish her off with one hit on the counter. Leigern can't get there since, again, you're not supposed to be able to bait from this bottom right corner. And well, from there it's easy enough for them to start cleaning things up. Seether's actually fast enough to break through Ceres's follow-up denial, so it's easy enough for her to cut through that and open a path for the rest of her team to pick off the rest of the big threats that we have. I haven't seen many legendary Ericas, so it is fun to see her here. Yep, and they just back up. I think they're... oh, they might actually just back all the way up. Neat. That does mean that, yeah, they let Plumeria bait Gatekeeper, and she's pretty happy with that. It's triangle advantage and a pile of res into a very defense-focused Gatekeeper is not a fight she's going to have problems with. And sadly, Felix doesn't move first, so he doesn't have a chance to get in range of Plumeria to potentially snipe her out. And from there it's very easy to clean things up. Honestly, I don't think these losses are too much to worry about overall, though. This one, again, is just, well, if you have a catapult in that lane, you're going to be able to bait from places I don't want you to bait from. And we've also had bolt towers landing on the entire team, which is unfortunate. I think the biggest pain point right now is actually Felix, since he can't really handle Seether. I think if I gave him Savvy Fighter or Hardy... well, he can't really use Hardy Fighter, but Savvy Fighter would do a lot for letting him handle Seethers. It might be something I look at giving him eventually if I get another copy of it, and I still do want to see what the arcane bow we get has before I do too much with him. I'm actually very surprised that this is the first bonus duo Asker that I've seen this week on defenses. I expected to see a lot more of him. There's a lot of firepower on this team. Wow. Feels like a hit and run approach. Nina's another unit I have not seen much of, but I do think she's an excellent hit and run character. The ability to Kanto back to wherever she came from lets her dodge a lot of potential annoyances that most hit and run characters might have to worry about. And they're just starting by using Asker to bait. Which, yeah, this is fair. Asker was someone I was a bit worried about, especially in his bonus week, since I don't think anyone on our team can really handle him with those bonus stats. Leigern just melts, ouch. And Corrin doesn't actually get in range to dance, which is a little unfortunate. That's actually thanks to Seether, who got to shut down Corrin's move at the start of this turn, which forced Mirabilis to dance Corrin, and didn't let Corrin actually move further in than she usually would be able to. Which would have actually gotten Elmine knocked out here. It was a clever play, honestly. Seether down here shutting down Corrin is something that I should probably consider shuffling people around to handle. I might be able to deal with that just by moving Ninian into where Corrin is and right now, and moving Corrin to where Ninian is.
I care not.
Which lets Ninian actually body block a bit, and she actually has enough res to contest Seether from the other side of the map, which would make it a lot harder to just shut this down with Seether on turn 1. Honestly, I really agree with that, Bergs. I picked Heroes Up originally just because it was a mobile Fire Emblem game, and I wasn't sure what to expect out of it. This is actually the only mobile game I've really played extensively. I think I've poked at one or two others every now and then, but I've never really gotten into any other mobile games than this one. And I think a lot of why I've stuck with this over the years is because there's a lot of depth to it. There's, especially when Seether Raids debuted, there's so much going on, and you can really dig into planning everything out and designing a defense, and it's been a lot of fun, honestly. I haven't been paying quite as much attention to this game as I have before in the last couple of months. I've been a bit distracted by real life and World of Warcraft 2 on the side, but there's a lot going on here. It's a fun game, and I've had fun with it. I will add a warning, though, of getting into this, that it does try to get you to spend money. It's part of the way the game is designed, and I honestly, the one part of the game that I don't really like is the summoning mechanic. I think there's a lot of room for improvement there, and it's yeah, not my favorite part of the game. My favorite parts of the game are basically everything else. The actual gameplay is a lot of fun. And part of it is just getting to invest in your favorite units and seeing them do well. Nice thing about all of this is that we did get to close the week out with a win. It's a legendary Marth, backed up with Elamine, Seether. Honestly, the Seether in this side was something I've been wondering about when she got revealed, since Khorne is not a very high-res unit, and Seether can pretty easily disable her turns every other turn, just from standing in this bottom corner. So I'd like to block this with someone, I just need to figure out who. What might end up being the case is I just move Mirabilis down a tile instead of switching Ninian, because I really count on Ninian dancing Lakearn here to give her that extra cooldown, or the breath effect rather, and also clear off her debuffs, and yeah. The setup here has honestly just been very detailed in its planning. It's starting to show its age a bit, and might need a little bit of tinkering to adjust to the modern world of heroes. Yeah, that's fair, Bergs. I think game development was something that I really kind of dreamed about early on. I think I'd still like to dabble in that at some point, potentially. But I don't know if I would want to get into a mobile field. I think the sort of game I'd love to develop would be things along the lines of mainline Fire Emblem games, Xenoblade Chronicles, Zelda. The games that sort of are a standalone project that doesn't try to, turn themselves into a service, I think is the term that gets thrown around a bit. So it's something that I love, just sort of designing things and figuring things out. It's just part of what I like to do. But yeah, over monetization is not something I'm comfortable with. Yeah, and I think that's fair, honestly. Hobbies are important. It's something that there's not as much pressure on you, and it's something that you can just have fun with, and it's a really important way to, it's an important thing to be able to balance your life out with. So, for offense, I put together some fun teams this week. I ended up redesigning some of them after I gave Dimitri some fun new toys. So he picked up some new stuff this week, including Distant Dart and Panic Smoke 4, along with a Times Pulse 4, to really just double down on this Vital Astra build. He's honestly he's aged remarkably well. I'm looking forward to seeing what he gets for his remix. I gave him godlike reflexes as well as the 4th inherit from all of that. It was a lot of fun to actually use Ganglot as a skill duplicator. I've been putting that off since I only ended up getting 2 of her, and I still have 1 left inherit-wise, and it's probably going to stay that way for a while since there's going to be a lot of decision paralysis involved in who I give these skills to. The teams, though, are pretty standard for what I usually use. It's Dimitri's a solo carry on this team. He's counting on Thor to help enable the instant soul retaliations, and potentially Elmine if we need extra damage reduction. This one's a ranged specialist with near safe backup. Technically it kind of acts as a vantage team as well, since Byleth is a very good vantage sweeper. This one's a melee specialist with the far-safe bodyguard in Fjorm. This one's a different take on vantage sweeping using Summer Edelgard. I've got Bernadetta to put her directly into vantage range, and she uses far-save to keep the rest of her team safe from any ranged units that get danced into areas I'd rather not see them running into. And then this one's just a Gale Force squad. It's not my usual Sladelgard squad, but she still works pretty well, even without the extra mobility from Florina, and having a backup with Elm gives her a way to get through any of those blue units that might actually give her trouble. Also, found an excuse to put Legendary Minion on the team since she is in season, and works really well, honestly, as a Gale Force complement dancer. So, let's dive into one match and see what we end up getting. Oh, well, this one's probably not going to be such a big deal. Got a Brave Claude, but he doesn't have his Refine, which is very unfortunate to see. That's an impressive Eliwood, though. Very impressive Eliwood. They've also got an Odor, who's a bit of a dance trap here with the Sigurd, who, because Odor's the 7th unit, will dance forward onto him and extend this team's threat range, which forces the team to start moving earlier than you might want them to on the offense side of things. Duma without his... Oh, I think we lost the screen here for a moment. Hang on. This is the unfortunate side of BlueStacks. Let's see if we can get the game back on the screen. Almost. Let's see here. There we go. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. Some technical difficulties. The problem with this Dense Trap, though, is that they don't really have anything to follow it up with. There aren't any rallies, so you can't, for example, have Leaf rally forward onto the Sigurd and then get danced by Mirabilis to attack somebody, and Eliwood doesn't have that either. And of course the Claude in the corner means you only have to worry about 6 units, instead of having to worry about all 7. So, not expecting to have too many problems with this. I think I might just let Dimitri solo carry this. I think he can. I'm reasonably sure he can manage this. The only thing that I think would really concern him might be Odor, but we can shut down that Brutal Shell turn 1 and make it less of a problem. Yeah, I think Dimitri's fine here. I haven't actually used the team with Panic Smoke and Distant Darts, so it'll be fun to see him go to work with this.
I'm going already.
What I'd actually really like to do is get him a lot further in and just let him dive on this team. I wonder if I do that. The Panic Smoke would be really good, just to apply to everybody. It's part of the effects of Panic Smoke 4 are kind of overwritten by Atrocity, since Atrocity just has a higher value debuff that it applies, but the big deal here is giving him Penalty Doubler, which just really does some silly things for him in the long run. We also don't really need to worry too much about getting him to apply those directly. As long as he gets the the penalty doubler applied to him after the first combat, he's going to be fine, since we have sabotages on the rest of the team to just fully enable him. So what we're going to do is, we're just going to go in turn 1 here. We'll turn off Odor. It gets rid of this menace and also stops the Brutal Shell from potentially threatening Dimitri. And yeah, we'll just get Dimitri in there and say go.
Your orders.
Why not?
One thing we probably aren't going to be able to do here is have him in range of Elamine at the same time as Thor. We are also going to have Sigurd end up dancing, which is a little unfortunate, but probably shouldn't be that big a deal. I don't think we can actually bait him out. His attack is a little too low. And while Dimitri doesn't have the best res... no, we should be able to do it from here. What we'll do is we'll just have Dimitri stand here.
I will go.
We'll move Elamine over.
By your will.
And I'll have Naga get over here. And we'll say go.
What now?
Oh, good, we are going to get to bait the dancer out. That's good. It's always nice when we get to get a dancer off the field by baiting them out instead of letting them just cruise around the battlefield. Especially when that dancer is someone like Sigurd. Oh wow, that penalty doubler is doing so much work.
On my honor.
So normally Odor wouldn't actually have a debuff applied to him, since he gets to end his turn right at the beginning. But since Eliud went and attacked first from that spot above Dimitri, it meant that Dimitri got to apply Atrocity to Odor before Odor had a chance to do anything. So he got to keep those debuffs, and those got doubled down by Panic Doubler, or Penalty Doubler, which meant that Dimitri just didn't care. He's just quite happy with all of this. Yeah, and, well, from there, there's nothing left here that's really going to threaten him. So I think what we'll do is we're just going to smite him forwards and let him take out Mirabilis here. Which means he also gets to handle Duma in the enemy phase, and really cleans up this map for us.
They will submit.
We'll just have Thor flip Naga forward. Okay.
I'll do it.
Maria breaks that so that she's not getting slowed down for next turn. And Dimitri doesn't really need effective damage or breath to handle Duma here.
It's our chance to prevail.
This team is one of those teams that I'm really trying to figure out a good way to outsource null follow-up for Dimitri with.
Your orders.
I'd probably end up
Close
giving the
your
tactic
eyes.
to Plumeria. She's on all of my offense teams in Astro Weeks anyway, and as a flyer instead of an infantry, it makes her a pretty good user of that skill.
Yes.
And would mean that I can replace the null follow-up seal for Dimitri with a breath, potentially, if I want to replace Thor with someone else, or just more stats from a different seal. There are a lot of options.
I'll
So
do
let's
it.
see, you've got flyer formation. If I reposition her over here, we could actually end this match this turn.
By your will.
So let's have Thor flip Naga forwards.
It will be done.
Elamine, you're going to flip Plumeria this way. See if this is real. It's not. That is very helpful.
Why not?
I'll
Which
comply.
means Dimitri can just break our second ether pot.
Close your
We'll move
eyes.
Plumeria over here,
Your orders.
and continue boxing Claude in to close out the match. This is a pretty straightforward second to last match of the week. Let's see if we get something interesting for this last one. Ooh, tier 39. Oh, okay, so they've gotten ins. This is probably a plus 10 ins. Up. With a floret and everything. Very impressive. I think we're going to start seeing more of... Well, if you do see an ins running around, I think we're going to see more of him with the new remote sparrow, since it makes it a lot easier for him to survive a counterattack and potentially fire a second special. And getting to fire 2 specials is very important for him, since he gets a free pierce every time he uses one, and that adds up really, really quickly. I wonder if I could just have Dimitri solo this one too. There's a pretty reasonable chance of it, actually. Got a Halloween Myrrh. Save Myrrh's actually a pretty good choice, although I don't know why they're using the normal distant counter instead of putting that in the seal and using a better A slot for her. I think she'd be better off switching those. We got Berceros. Ooh, plus 10 Ceros. With Times Pulse. Very fun. We got your Azura, the Catria and Esther Week, which is always a bit of a risk. Bonus Week Odor, and the Mirabilis on the side. He's actually a very bulky Odor. He has 62 health. I'm impressed. Okay. I think we can clear this with... probably with every single team, actually. So, here's what we'll do. I'm going to take a few minutes, and anybody who wants to see a specific one of these 5 teams, just tell me in chat which one you'd like to see. Team 5 is Gale Force, Team 4 is Vantage, 3 is a melee specialist Dimitri with Fjorm as far save, 2 is solo Dimitri, and 1 is ranged specialist Byleth with a melee save. So if you have a preference in the next couple of minutes, just let me know in chat, and I will see what I can do to plan that out with whichever team you guys pick. I'm pretty sure I can figure this out with any of them. Yeah, I'm not really seeing anything here that would give any of them a problem. I think all of them can handle this. Maybe not the one with... Yeah, I think the only one I might not want to go in on is this team specifically, with Dimitri and Fjorm. I think it's still doable. I'd just want to have Dimitri sniping ins before we get started. And even then, that Catchery might be a little spooky for him with triangle attack. Okay, we've got a vote for Team 1 with them. It would be Byleth and Robin. I'm pretty sure that works out really well, actually. Since I am about 90% sure that Byleth outspeeds ins, she doesn't have a lull, which makes it a lot easier, and I'm pretty sure she one-shots him. And then she also gets to bait out the Azura at the same time, which limits them to a single dancer. And that means Ceres is the only one getting danced, and by the time Ceres gets danced, she's not actually going to be getting any triangle attacks. I'm pretty sure. He's actually going to get to jump over here to Harsh Command Ins, or Azura, but probably Ins since it has the higher BST, so she'd Harsh Command him. Which, I believe I have a sabotage speed on this team, yes, that means he starts with 56 speed, and gets another, so that's 62, 69, plus 9 speed. So that's 78 speed. That goes down to 70 again, thanks to the preempt and hold, and Byleth, you've got 5, 10, 16, another 20 thanks to Plumeria, so that's 71, and then 77 thanks to Naga, so actually, potentially 80 speed thanks to Naga. So she should be able to outspeed Inns regardless. I think the bigger deal is actually going to be the harsh command on Sabotage Res, if we've got that, and we do. So let's make sure that Byleth actually one-shots this Inns, otherwise that might be something I need to rethink. Probably not. Actually, we could bait him from here, and I don't think there's a triangle attack available for him on this tile. There's a second harsh command here, but that doesn't really land on Sarah's since she clears off all of her debuffs. And Inns would be the only one who can attack, so the harsh command would only land on Inns no matter what. So we could actually just bait it from all the way in these tiles and not really have to worry very much about it. It's actually interesting to see 2 harsh command pluses. I don't see it very often on defenses, but it can really mess with people's ability to actually clear a map if you're not being very careful, since it doesn't just clear off the stat penalties, it also clears off every other penalty that you might have, including things like guard or exposure, which are becoming a lot more common now. Yeah, so I think if we bait from here, that gets rid of Inns, and with Inns off the table, there's not really going to be very much that threatens us. I think the only trick would end up being picking up both ether pots before we close things out, and I think that's something we can handle. Wonder if there are any attack speed debuffs we could take advantage of. Nope, doesn't look like. Inns himself doesn't get danced before he attacks, that's important. Okay. I think if I was choosing which team to go at this with, I would probably end up picking the Gale Force squad, since they don't have a near save, this is far save, and that lets Edelgard just move in and start picking apart their team before they can actually do very much, and would probably let her close out by locking Azura in place and just enemy phasing probably Mirabilis. Because the first thing she could do is go in and take out Seros, and then Catria, and then on the second turn we go in, snipe, Inns, Myrrh, and then probably just plonk in front of Azura and let her handle Odor and Mirabilis in the enemy phase. I do think the solo Dimitri team would actually work really well too, thanks to Elamine just turning off this triangle attack. But so far we've got at least 1 vote for Team 1, so let's see what we can do with this.
To a new year.
So I just want to double check this. This is, yeah, he's currently going to get Harsh Commanded, which turns us into 56 speed, 62, 69, 78. Goes back down to 70. And Byleth has 71 just from these two, 77 from that, so she always outspeeds him. Attack-wise, she has another plus 10, it's 86, bare minimum of 86 attack, and Inns would have 42 res. So 86 attack into 42 res is already 44 damage, which means she needs to do 21 with the Sublime Heaven.
I go with
Or
conviction.
Sublime Heaven, Divine Pulse. And since, ooh, actually it's going to get very close. What we're going to need to do is make sure that she's getting the bonuses from Naga,
I seek a foe.
and ideally from probably Plumeria
I'll
and
do
Thor as
it.
well. I don't need to worry about actually having
Insects
Robin in
crushed.
range here. We just need to make sure that Byleth is getting as much attack support as possible, so that she can one-shot the Inns after the Harsh Command comes through. She's not getting any other res buffs, and actually if we are plonking right here, it means that she also gets to take advantage of the attack speed unity thanks to Odor's Menace. The defense isn't going to do anything, but the extra 6 attack she gets from here is really, really important. I would kind of like to get rid of this tactic room. It would mean that we need to have Robin over here as well. Sadly, there's no good way for us to test this trap. I can't really test it safely here, since it's right in our range. I can only keep one person out of range of this trap, thanks to where our structures are on the right side. So this is just going to get in our way a bit. Let's start like this, I think. We're probably going to need to take at least a turn to set up and get in position. Maybe not. Let's see. If I have... If Naga breaks this, Elm can break this one, and then Kanto back down here. And I could have... Well, Byleth would want to be up here then. Maybe like this. If Elm is... No, not quite. Yeah, we'll probably just have to take the first turn and wait. If we take the first turn to wait, then we should still be okay time-wise, I think. Mur isn't going to move very quickly. I think she might even be the one who harsh commands instead of Katria, we'll see. If Katria harsh commands here, Azura's going to dance her. If Azura doesn't dance Zero's first. Either way, that's somebody who can reach this tile, and it would be really good if we can actually bait from here. I don't think I can, though. Because that also means that Inz is going to be able to jump to this tile too, and that means unless we have Byleth standing specifically here, we're not really in a good spot. We're going to bait from here, and we'll just handle whatever comes through this side as it does. Yeah, so like this, I think. This tactic room is honestly going to be a major problem for us in the turn after we go in. Don't like that. Not really sure there's much I can do about it. I really would like to just pull this on turn 1. Is there any way I can do that? Naga breaks this one. Elm gets in here to break this. Oh, yeah, okay, there is one. Okay, so if what I do is reposition Plumeria over here, Naga breaks this, Elm breaks the bookcase, Byleth breaks this, and then I just dance her, and she moves up into this tile. Yeah, that should work.
What is your desire?
I'm going already.
Good idea.
Close your eyes.
This also gives us the maximum possible attack bonus that we can work with, which is pretty useful. Yeah, I think we break this.
By your will.
Oh.
Okay. Alright, let's see if I mathed this correctly. So Ceres gets dance first. Then there's the harsh command. There is a triangle attack, but he shouldn't actually get to land this because we outspeed him and one-shot him. Interesting that Mur actually jumped forward to use that. That's right, I think there's a priority on warps to move forward with, especially if she's not getting threatened. Okay, this is going to get very interesting, isn't it? So let's see, Byleth. Oh, you can just crack that Mur. Perfect.
Why not?
I can't actually dance her from here, though, which is a bit awkward. Yep, I was thinking this tactic room would get us in a little bit of trouble. I think we're okay, though.
Where is my prey?
Robin's probably going to jump down here and just keep everybody safe from the melee. And then all we have to worry about is making sure that nobody except Byleth is getting attacked by Azura. I don't actually want to knock out Myr here. I would much rather let Myr survive until the end of the match, but Mirabilis surviving is also very workable. So, let's see. Not worried about Saros.
Insects to
Robin
be
is going to
crushed.
handle that very easily.
Oh,
She's always going to be in here. So Zura's threat range is all the way up to this area. Yep, this tactic room and this bolt trap are a very, very spooky combination for us right now. What I could do is, if we kill the Myr with
Good idea.
Byleth and move Thor down a tile, we can reposition Byleth. Sadly, she's got... I should have given her flyer formation instead of aerobatics for this team.
It will be done.
It's okay, we'll make it work. What I could also do is just break this tactic room. I'm not sure how I feel about
Insects to
Robin
be
tanking
crushed.
triangle attacks. It's the only problem. I think she might be able to handle it, but I'd rather not take that risk if we can avoid it. So, if all we're doing is baiting from these tiles, we can retreat into these pretty easily. And if we are baiting from those, then Azura and Saros are the only ones who can attack us, which means that they are going to be the targets for these two harsh commands. Azura can always do damage to Byleth, which means that Byleth baits her into attacking. This dance would never happen. Katria would harsh command one of the two of them, probably Saros, and then would Kanto probably all the way back to here behind Odor and then get danced. That dance lets her jump back up here to harsh command whoever didn't get harsh commanded first, and lets her end up staying here. And that's if Myr doesn't harsh command first. I don't think Myr would jump here to harsh command, since it would be a more threatened tile, even with the warp. Yeah, so I think what we're
Where
doing
is my
here is we're just
prey?
going to pull back. We'll move Robin here,
They will
move Thor
submit.
down a tile, move
Good idea.
Byleth here. I think if we break this tactic room, we're actually okay with that. So breaking the tactic room here does give them a way to move in through this side, but Azura can't actually reach anybody here. And we shouldn't have to worry too much about anyone else getting in there either. Odor should never actually get danced.
I go with conviction.
Yeah, this opens things
Close
up for us a lot on the
your
following turn too, since we don't have to
Good
worry about any
idea.
gravity effects, which is pretty important. The question now is whether I have Elm break this fence. I don't think I do. I think I leave the fence alive, and we just wait and see if I figured this out correctly. These harsh commands are making things very interesting. Oh, okay, Myr's the one doing it. That's fine. The other one goes to Cat. Oh wow, and Katria backed all the way out. That's perfect. Robin should have no problems here. Pavise means she's barely taking any damage, and she should be able to knock Saros out on the counters here. Barely, but she does. Good. And yeah, Azura's just not having a good time here.
Have faith.
Even with the solo skill offline, Byleth is still very comfortable taking Azura out. Perfect, okay. And now the team is really split up, so we don't even have to worry about triangle attacks anymore, which is very important. Plus, we're also freed from being gravitied to death. That also means that Myr is very, very stuck. Ooh, I like this. So, what I think we do is get, huh. If I could bait Catria, that would be perfect. I don't know if
Insects to be
Robin does
crushed.
bait Catria.
Good
She
idea.
might. She might. Let's
Oh,
see. If Robin gets up here and swaps
Oh, I'll do
Plumeria.
it.
Go with
Plumeria is
conviction.
going to need to dance Byleth, I think. What I can do is have Elm break that Panic Manor, and then Canto over to the left. We move Byleth up here, dance her, and we probably want to either smite her or reposition her, though. That's the problem. Ooh, what I could also do is just get Byleth
Where is
all
my
the way up
prey?
here. If we get Byleth here, then she gets to bait all three of these out. Well, technically it's Robin
Insects to
getting
be
baited
crushed.
doing the baiting. That Brutal Shell might hit hard. I think he only has an auto follow-up, right? Yeah.
Where is my prey?
And Robin's not going to care too much about that as long as she's not getting hit with a guard effect, which he doesn't have.
Oh,
Because she will just Pavise the first hit and the second hit and then kill him. Yeah, I think as long... They only have melee at this point, so honestly Byleth moving far forward isn't a necessity at all. If anything, it only helps us get rid of Mirabilis so we don't have to worry about the dances, but I don't think the dances are something we're going to need to worry about too much. Since without triangle
Where is
attacks,
my
there's
prey?
nothing here that really threatens Robin.
insects
So let's just
to be
move Robin
crushed.
forward. I would like to have somebody else doing the baiting so that she actually gets the near save bonuses. So if we move Robin here and swap Plumeria, Plumeria can dance her. I
What
could have
now?
Elm be the one doing the baiting,
Hmm.
but I'd really like to have
Good
Byleth
idea.
up there. So if we move Byleth, dance her forward, Elm's probably breaking this Panic Manor because Robin doesn't want to be dealing with that.
Why not?
I go with conviction.
Yeah, so Elm breaks this. This is just something we're doing.
Hmm. Oh,
If Robin gets up here and swaps, that means Byleth has a much harder time actually getting up there.
good idea.
If Byleth repositions you, that's a problem too.
I go with
I don't
conviction.
think I really need to be too worried about this. I'm overthinking it. I'm just going to get
Close your
Byleth
eyes.
danced forward,
Good idea.
up this fence,
Where is
and
my
have Robin
prey?
sit right here.
Yes.
By your will.
And we should be fine. Robin's going to tank at least one hit. Nope. Okay, just the one looks like from Odor. Oh, and that's right, Hardy Fighter stops his auto follow-up, so he only gets the one. And that barely did any damage to her. Okay, I was definitely just overthinking this. Harsh command. Okay, so the bright side of this is I can actually have Byleth get up here to take out Mirabilis, and then we can also bait Catria.
It will be done.
Pretty easily, I think.
I'm going already.
Good
so
idea.
if we have you reposition Byleth, she gets up here, knocks out Mirabilis because she can't be saved, and then as long as somebody's standing here, we force Catria to attack even if Myr steps in this way to Harsh Command, since Myr would no longer be able to attack. Alright.
I go with
And
conviction.
go ahead. I think we're going to stay here, that way I don't have to save two people from Catria.
You go no further.
What is your desire?
Oh,
I seek a foe.
Oh, Oh,
and we'll just
yes.
start moving
By
forward
your
further in.
will.
So Katria goes down this turn, and then it's just Myrrh, and Myrrh is very easy for us to handle. Robin and Byleth honestly make a really strong pair, mostly thanks to the speed res hold that Byleth has by default. And since they both really like focusing on speed and res specifically, it makes it very easy to tailor your debuffs if you're using sabotages
Why not?
to support them, since you only really need the two.
They will submit.
The attack is nice, but probably unnecessary. Alright, and we still have a few turns left to pick up ether
By
pots
your
and
will.
close things out.
What now?
Yeah, we'll just let Elm bait her forward.
Close your eyes. Yes.
And funnily enough, we're even going to get this rain to, or hold to affect Myrrh for this combat. She might actually survive here, I'm not sure. Oh, never mind. I wasn't sure, and then I saw just how much damage Robin is doing per swing. I honestly, when I was pulling on this banner with Robin, I wasn't expecting to use her past her bonus week, but she's been a very strong option for my near saves to complement a far save or a ranged specialist. And that brings another week to a close. Pretty good. I don't think we quite ranked as high as usual, but it's still very comfortably in the top 1,000, so I'm happy enough with that. And yeah, that's good stuff. Chaos Season's going to be an interesting time this coming week. I've actually already gone and set up the teams for, or the offense teams at least, for the week. I don't think I'm going to make too many changes to them. So these should be pretty much what I end up using in the coming week. Got one for Hell, because I never pass up an opportunity to run Hell on an offense team when I don't, without getting penalized for it, because as a defense mythic, you normally can't use her on an offense team without losing a lot of score, so it's fun in Chaos since they don't, it throws all of that scoring out the window and you can use whoever you want. Pairing her with a far save means that she really just has a guaranteed miracle against anything she's going to end up fighting, and can focus purely on stats and a damage special. I really wish that Vital Astra was usable by a flying unit, because she would have it right now if it was. I also support her with Lilith for null follow-up. I might end up switching that out now that I picked up, where is she? I have her on one of these teams. This one, with Lind, who's... I do think that Lilith is the better null follow-up support for a single character, but Lind has that option of offering that support to multiple people, and has no restrictions on it outside of starting the turn within 2 spaces of them, which is extremely strong. The can't be slowed by terrain is a neat little extra perk. I'm not so sure it's going to be the most used effect currently. We only have forests and trenches that really get that you can really take advantage of with this, and forests still block movement for cavalry since they can't move through them at all. So I think its usefulness is a little limited at the moment, but I do think that we might end up seeing some new terrain effects in the not-so-distant future. We are coming up to the anniversary, which would be a good time to introduce new AR maps, potentially, with extra wrinkles to them that people can take advantage of. I'm currently using her on a team that doesn't really have anybody that takes advantage of the null follow-up. Edelgard is not known for speed, but what she does do is offer us the health threshold we need to get Florina into her weapon activation with a single reciprocal aid. Currently I do need somebody who has 33 hit points or less in Chaos Season, to activate this, and since I'm using Azure as the bonus unit, I can't use my 33 hit points Duo Peony the way I usually would. So we're using Lind instead, and I think she's fine. Null Follow-Up actually could come in handy for Edelgard, since we are using Blade Session for her, and we can actually end up with a decent chunk of speed between that and Speed Tactic, and she can have some decent speed. Enough to outspeed some of the slower enemies she runs into, and having Null Follow-Up for that could actually end up being useful. Mostly, though, this team is just about hypermobility, with Florina enabling warp effects for her entire team after one reciprocal aid, which does a lot for getting Azura into range to use a Gale Force, and, well, Edelgard just Gale Forcing all over the map as usual. I also put together a vintage squad for Altina, who sadly did not quite make it to +10 with this remix banner. I only got one of her on the way to the Spark, and then got Pity Broken by Marth shortly after, so she's probably going to have to wait until July to hit +10. A little unfortunate there. I was really hoping to get her to +10 here, but I just... I can't... There's the chance that I get Pity Broken by Marth again, and I do not like that chance, so I will just see what she shares with next time and pull on that banner instead. She's really, really solid though. This remix did a lot for her, giving her a breath effect from the weapon along with a pile of extra stats, and while the true damage is capped at 7, and it's a little unfortunate considering how many people have uncapped true damage these days, it would be really cool if she did have it, but just getting that +7 is still very strong. And she has an easier time of getting to that +7 range than some of the other units with uncapped true damage do. It would have been nicer to see her just get flat true damage, though, from res. I would have liked that. 20% true damage from res, why not? Oh well, that's okay. The damage reduction is also a really extra fun perk for her, since it does a lot of work helping her get into that vantage range in the first place if you don't just enable her with a Winter Bernadetta like I'm planning to. And I'm also supporting her with an Eliwood for bonus doubler, and the extra Kanto as well, which really helps get her into position, along with a Naga. The Naga is mostly here for enabling Eliwood, because we do need a beast or dragon on the team, but she also gives dragon slaying to Altina, which is a very important thing to have when we are running into bonus week Medius in this coming Chaos season. And Naga on the team means that Altina is just never, ever going to have problems handling Medius, even if, for some reason, Medius is beating her res check, which I kind of doubt, frankly. She has a lot of res. This team's another interesting one. I've used Claude as a hit-and-run carry for quite a while now, and he's very effective with it, especially if you pair him with a Harmonic Catria for the triangle attacks. Being able to apply gravity around his current target just does a lot of work, and having the extra mobility from the warps and Kanto from Catria does a lot of work. Byleth here is the magic option in case Claude does run into a physical wall that he can't break for whatever reason. And they both have really, really safe initiations thanks to Null Follow-Up and a pile of damage reduction on the first counterattack. The spicy part of this team is actually adding Embla to it, since one of the few things that really slows Claude down on this type of squad is a Farsave armor that forces him to attack that armor instead of whatever's on the front line. And with Embla on the team, like hell, you can use her on an offense team in Chaos Weeks. You don't have to worry about save armors at all anymore, and you can just pick whichever target you want at any point in time. Plus, Embla herself is actually very good at dismantling any opponent she looks in the general direction of, so I'm looking forward to seeing this team. I don't know if I'll use it. I honestly expect the Edelgard squad to take most of the matches again, or the Altina one. I would love to have an excuse to use Altina more this week. I also have a ranged and melee specialist set up with Hillmine to shut down any Petrias on the enemy team, and Hubert. I experimented a little bit with Hubert recently, and I do think his new refine is actually extremely strong. The ability to apply exposure, and I think guard too, to specific targets on an enemy team is just, it's really, really good. On top of the sabotages for attack, defense, and res all at the same time. He's a very complete package as a support unit, and I think the one thing I really would like to give him at some point is even pulse tie to round all of this out. I think if I do get even pulse tie for if I get another Mills at some point, it's going to go directly into Hubert because, yeah, even pulse tie would round this out beautifully and just make him a really complete package of a support unit. The extra true damage also does a lot of work for someone like Summer Edelgard, who gets to hit twice and double dip on that. I'm using a Hardy Fighter set for her on this team. I might end up switching this for a Bonfire instead. Honestly, I don't think it matters too much. She's got a lot of bulk either way, and yeah. I do think that the extra true damage is enough for her though, and just having Pavis makes her that much harder to actually kill. So yeah, Chaos Offense should be a lot of fun this coming week. I'm looking forward to it, although I imagine that in another 4 days, I'm not going to be spending very much time thinking about AR, and I'm just going to be trying to do the matches as quickly as I can before going back to thinking about Fire Emblem Engage instead. Really looking forward to that game. Speaking of Engage, the new banner that we're getting with our first Engage characters tomorrow it's an interesting set. I think it's very odd to look at Aliar's kit and have the immediate reaction of she's better off replacing this entire set of skills when she has a fully premium kit to work with baseline. I do think that the 80-something% damage reduction she has access to in her base kit is pretty cool, but it does get shut down really, really quickly by any of the multitude of damage reduction or DR piercing effects that we have in the game right now, like lethality, Deadeye. There's a lot of options. And passive ones too, from units like Inns or Legendary Nana, who just doesn't care about any of it. I think she's going to really appreciate Godlike Reflexes as a special, as long as you can enable it for her. And keep it charged as well, between combats. It would work out really well for her. But I honestly think that her best niche is going to end up being a Gale Force Enabler, since she actually applies the same effect as Assault Troop to herself and her support partner at the start of the turn, and giving Assault Troop to anybody really opens up just so many options, especially since it also frees up the skill slots for both herself and her support partner, so they don't have to worry about using the skill themselves. And that's a lot of mobility to just have easy access to. It'll be fun. The rearmed lance is something that I'm really hoping to give to Azura, and might end up being the one major change I make to these teams is if I end up getting the lance to play with, I'd probably want to give it to Azura before anybody else, and see what kind of skill sets I can tinker with for her when I give that to her. The others were interesting too. Chloe's, let me pull up the skills again. Chloe had some interesting stuff going for her. She actually just gets a pile of stats, visible stats, for free from her weapon, with no conditions attached, which is very cool. No drawbacks either, so Fury's kind of crying in a corner, but it is actually really nice to get distance stance in the main pool, and Pegasus Flight 4 looks like a lot of fun to play with. It's a really nice upgrade from the base Pegasus Flight, which I actually used quite a bit of with Ashnard a long time ago now, since it flips the speed check to match the Wyvern Flight version, and also just gives you some stats for free for running it, which really helps keep it on a level, I think, with things like Trace, which give you stats and movement at the same time. So Pegasus Flight really needs to kind of double down on that to actually be a viable option, and I think this is a good way to do it. The extra option for follow-up denial is also a pretty neat extra perk if you meet that check. Celine's also an interesting character. Yeah, the new close call, I don't think Alier is going to be the best user of it, but I do think it's a very cool new upgrade for the dodge skills, and I imagine that all of the other dodge variants are all going to use this as their upgrade, which personally for me makes me look at close call and think this is not the skill that you want to pull for to fodder to whoever's using your dodge skills. You probably want to wait for Velocity 4 or Spurn 4 instead. Of course, if you just end up with an Alier or two and don't plan on merging her or using her, it is a solid upgrade from the current dodge skills and well worth using, I think. Celine's an interesting one. She's got a lot of healing built into her weapon, and it'll be interesting to see if she ends up seeing a lot of use. She does have effects in her weapon that take advantage of all of that healing. She gets up to 45% damage reduction based on her allies' health, but she does need 3 nearby allies to crank that up to the max, and she needs the same number of allies to get the max value out of her true damage, which goes up to 15, 5 per ally. She's a really interesting unit. I don't know that we're going to see too much of her, though. We'll see. She might end up being a lot of people's favorite just from playing the game, and honestly, that ends up being the major factor for a lot of people in Heroes, I think, is who are my favorite characters from the main games, and how can I make them really, really good here? Which would be me, with characters like Zelkius and Azura. Who, this is a bit of a leftover from the Roker sieges over the last couple of days. It's the skill set I use for those when it's a ranged Roker, and I really just want to try to keep them locked in place, while Zelkius just takes all of their health out. Usually he's using something more like this, which is a much more reasonable build in most areas of the game. Yeah, that's fun stuff. I'm looking forward to that banner. I am planning to pull on this one because Alier is likely going to be a long-term merge project for me, a lot like Byleth was. Speaking of Byleth, I am still waiting for her refine. We're probably not going to see it for another few months. They might end up just drip feeding us the various lords from 3 houses. And I am still waiting on one more merge for her. I think if I find a Byleth in the Binding Worlds at some point, I will definitely pick her up for the last merge, since it would also max out her Dragon Flowers at the same time. And currently I haven't given her any, so that would be a very solid upside to it. We'll see. That's still a ways off. I think we still have the option to pick up a unit from the last Binding Worlds, and I haven't done that yet because I just kind of have decision paralysis. I think if I do pick someone up, it would probably be probably Kanigas. This Kanigas was pretty cool. The Azura is a little tempting just for the chill and all of the Dragon Flowers, but I already have her at +10, so it's unlikely to be the thing. Did also find one Dimitri, and I'm sad that it's tempting to pick him up just for all of these dragon flowers and the rally and the refine. I might end up doing it, even if it feels really terrible to do. Because Dimitri is someone I would like to end up marching up to 10, even though I already have Legendary Dimitri maxed out. The Brave Dimitri's refine was enough for me to look at him and go, I probably want to build another Infantry Lance Dimitri, I guess. I like Dimitri. Honestly, I like all of the Lords from Three Houses. It was a really good game. Just so many great, memorable characters, and I loved them all. So I'm hoping that Engage ends up matching that, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out in a few days. Also looking forward to seeing what new music we get for the maps tomorrow, I think, when the banner goes live, since it should be our first preview of the music in the new game. And I haven't actually heard any of the actual in-game music, just the stuff from the first trailer, so I'm looking forward to that. It should be fun. And I think that's about all for today, so thank you to everybody who's tuned in. It's great to be able to share this with you and have a bit of a cleaner air offense end of the week this time. Last week was a little embarrassing, but it's okay. We did better this week, and that's what matters, and hopefully I'll end up with another clean couple of weeks going into the madness of scheduling around all of the play sessions I'm planning to do for Engage. I mentioned it during the stream last night, but I am planning to start an Engage stream at the usual time, around 7:30 Eastern, on Friday, just to make sure that I have enough time to actually pick the game up and get it back, and unpack it, and probably take some pictures and just share the unboxing of the Collector's Edition with people. I'll be posting that on the Discord and potentially as a separate post on the YouTube channel, so that's something to keep an eye out for, if you're interested in just seeing what comes with the Collector's Edition. And yeah, we'll start the stream in the evening, and I expect I'll probably go pretty late, but I'm also planning to stream Engage basically all day Saturday. I'll probably... I don't know if I'll start in the morning, but I'll definitely be streaming in the early afternoon, and then probably all evening as well after dinner. So, stuff to look forward to. I don't know yet how the schedule for the week after the weekend is going to shake out. There's quite a few things that are going on in real life outside of just the channel and gaming, so I might not be able to stream as much as I'd like, but we'll see. I'm hoping that I'll get to. I may not end up streaming Heroes next Monday, since I would probably rather be streaming Engage instead, which I hope is a little bit understandable, and we'll get Heroes back on track once we get through the main story of the game, I think, in Engage. And I might end up streaming some Heroes here and there anyway, we'll see. Whatever I end up doing, I should always end up having things scheduled ahead of time, so if you keep an eye out on the channel, you'll always be able to see it coming and decide whether or not you want to watch along. I will be keeping the stream very spoiler-free, including in chat, so if you do plan on watching along with me, please keep that in mind. A lot like my playthrough of Xenoblade Chronicles 3, anything from beyond where the current stream is in the game is considered a spoiler and would get you banned from chat if you start posting it, so please keep that in mind. I'd like to experience the entire game unspoiled and hopefully help other people have that same experience if they aren't playing it for themselves. So, just stuff to keep in mind. I'd rather not have to crack down on people, so thank you for considering everybody's experiences and enjoying it with everybody else. And yeah, I think that's about it for today. So thank you everybody for tuning in. It's been great to have you all back here for this for the weekly reset, and I hope to see you all again next time or on Friday for Engage. So Until then, take care, good luck with your matches and pulls, and have fun with whatever games you're playing.